How's it going, everyone? Hope you're keeping well. I'm Tyler and welcome back to the Fish La Moto channel. This is my 2008 DRZ 400 SM, and this is the rear shock to this bike. You're most probably wondering, why is my rear shock off the bike? Well, when I got this bike a few months ago, as a few people know, I stripped this bike down and basically rebuilt it. But the rear shock, apart from changing the spring to a Hyper Pro progressive shock, I didn't really get around to doing much else to that shock. I didn't think it was that bad a problem until recently when I started riding my friend Dan's DRZ back to back with this one. And that's when I really noticed the back end of my bike was really dropping, really sagging, and I felt like I was riding at an angle everywhere. I looked into it, I tried adjusting it, I tried tightening it, didn't really improve. But then when I looked closer, I could see obvious signs like my bump stop rubber was cracked and stuff, which was telling me this shock had most probably been neglected over its life, not been serviced regularly, and it was most probably overdue a service by a suspension specialist. So I had a little Google, had a look around, asked around on my local Facebook groups, and I found a local guy called MJ Suspension based over in Billericay. I sent him a message and he said, yep, it's definitely something he can do. He can strip it down, he can give everything a clean, give it a good service and replace anything that's necessary. When I explained my symptoms to him, he kind of guessed that it would have something to do with the gases. And when he stripped it apart, he found out that on the inside in here in the bladder was all perished, and basically my shock was missing all of its nitrogen gas. Hence why the bike was just dropping and sagging and the suspension wasn't doing its job. It's really important to have your suspension dialed in for you, your weight, your riding style, because it can make a real big difference with your bike. It can be a day and night difference in how your bike handles. So a lot of people rush to put new exhaust systems and performance things on their bike, when really one of the best performance gains for riding, comfort, smoothness, response and handling of the bike is getting your rear and front suspension set up to your weight and your riding style. So this was the final piece for my puzzle. Guy over at MJ Suspension was really good. He was really good at communicating. He was really fair. He kept me in the loop with everything, and I couldn't ask for a better service. So if you are in the Essex area or near Billericay and you want your suspension seen to, or you want it serviced by someone who knows their stuff, drop them a message over at MJ Suspension. I'll put all the details in the description to this video. So with the intro done of what we're doing here today, the only thing I got to do left to this shock is replace this top bearing and bushing, because I noticed the rubbers were all perished and stuff. So I ordered a new kit and said to him, don't worry about changing that, I'll do it when I get the shock back myself. Once that's done, I'm going to put this shock on this bike. It's already all been dialed into its factory settings, so I've got a level benchmark, and then I'm going to ride it for a bit, see how it rides and give it any tweaking or adjustment from there. Hopefully this should now make quite a bit of an improvement to the way this bike handles, feels and things like that. So let's get this in my garage and change this top bushing and bearing. Here we've got our shock, and this is the bearing and bush I'll be replacing. As you see, you've got a rubber seal on either side, so we're going to have to pop them out. And then on one of these sides will be a metal circlip. We pop that clip out and then press this bearing from one side out to the other. Once we've done that, just going to give up the surface inside a quick clean and then replace the old bearing with the new kit, which I've got from All Balls Racing. Within here, we have got our new bearing, inner spacers for the bearing, a circlip plus a spare one, and then two rubber washers. The rubber washers are different sizes because one side of that is bigger than the other. You know when it's seated correctly, you should be able to see the gap for the C-clip to go in. The top bush all replaced and done. This shock is now ready to go back on my bike. But before I put it back on my bike, I thought I'd take you over the suspension settings. So here, this inner one is low speed compression, that little screw. And this nut on the outside is my high speed compression. Down the bottom here, on this adjuster screw, it's my rebound adjustment. The factory settings for this bike, you wind all these adjusters in, and then the high speed compression, I'll wind this nut out by 1 full turn and then an 1/8 of a turn. And then the inner screw, which is the low speed compression, I wind it out by 10 clicks. The very bottom screw for the rebound, I want to wind it out 14 clicks. When it's on the bike, I want to have 20 to 25 mil of static sag. That is the amount the rear end drops under the weight of the bike itself, measured from the axle to the back of the bike. If it drops too much, I can always wind up the preload a little bit, but if it don't drop enough, I can back off the preload a little bit, so I can adjust that once that's back on the bike. What I'm going to have to do to be able to do this is I'm going to have to take off the seat, followed by the side panel, which allows me access to the top nut up here. As well as that, I'm going to have to get underneath the bike, undo the dog legs and the suspension arm. Once I've undone this top nut, I should be able to wiggle the rear shock out the back. But while I'm doing that, I also need to remember to take the weight of the rear wheel, so I'm going to have to chock that up with something. I'm also going to have to take the exhaust can off because the link pipe is in the way of the shock gas reservoir. Not a problem, just a couple of extra things to do. Before I put the new refurbished shock back on, I thought I'd show you the old donor shock, which is actually in better condition than that one was. As you can see, bit of pitting corrosion on the inside of the top bush is basically gone. The bump stop's all cracked, and it just looks pretty manky compared to this one, which is all freshly refurbished. Should feel a lot better with the handling and the way the bike rides. So let's get this one on the bike in the reverse order of how we took this one off. The rear shock is all done and on the bike, and it's now a week later. In that week, I've done about 400 miles on this bike, and over those 400 miles, I've tweaked the suspension a little bit from the factory settings. I had to adjust the rebound a little bit as I found the back end was coming up quite quick, and the high speed dampening, I've left it, but the low speed dampening, I've adjusted that by a few more clicks as well. It was quite easy to work it out. I put in on Google AI search settings I'd originally set this bike to, how I was feeling, how the bike was responding, and Google advised on how I can then adjust the suspension. Now I've done that, as well as a couple of turns on the preload, this bike is riding day and night different to how it was before. The handling is so much better. The ride is smoother. It feels firmer. I've got a lot more confidence in the corners. I didn't realise how much my back end was sinking and bouncing around until I got this shock serviced. Overall, I'm really happy with the difference. I think it's well worth every penny. It's cost me around the £200 mark. That's because I had it serviced, but I also needed some parts on top of that service charge as well. I think it's really good value for money, especially for the difference it's made in my bike. I'm really happy with it, and honestly, if I'm ever going to have any more rear shocks done, I'm going to take them to MJ Suspension because I'm really happy with the service he gave as well. And because of that, I really recommend, if you're in the Essex area, look them up. Like I said at the start of the video, I'm going to put all the details in the description to this video, so look them up, give them a message, see what we can do for you. That's going to be a wrap for today's video. Hopefully you found it useful. Hopefully it's given you the confidence to take your suspension off and go get it serviced, and then you can see for yourself the difference it will make. It's definitely well worth every penny. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and leave a comment in the comments. Let me know what you think of this bike, what you think of the shock. Do you think it was money well spent? And are you looking at getting it done yourself? Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.